Hey guys, my name is Fallon, and as you can tell, I know a thing or two about locks. I've had my locks for about 3 years, but I still haven't even scratched the surface about what there is to know about locks. So as someone who's just starting their locks, or they're considering, I can imagine how daunting it can be to begin the process. Although locks have been rising in popularity, it's a hairstyle that requires a lot more maintenance and knowledge than you think. I'm going to give you a couple of tips that helped me out on my journey and hopefully will inspire anybody to start or just give them the push that they need or develop a healthier routine for your locks to promote growth and stability. Deciding to lock your hair is a huge commitment. It's not the type of style that you can get right quick and take out. You can, but it would just take a long amount of time. All I'm saying is it requires serious commitment. So before you do it, ask yourself, okay, is this how I want my hair to stay for a long period of time? And think about your reasons for doing it, other than the fact that you think it looks nice or whatever the case may be. My personal reason was that I was tired of dealing with my natural hair, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I salute all of the natural hair girlies because it is a lot of work caring for black hair. And not to say that having locks is less work, but the maintenance for it is less intense for me personally. So I have a couple of notes written on my phone that I'm just going to share with you guys. Some tips, tricks, and considerations that you need to have in mind if you're about to start having locks, or if you already have them and you want to learn some healthy habits. So other than understanding your personal reason for getting locks, make sure that you know your hair type. Do you have hair that's more coarse? Do you have hair that's more fine? All of that will factor into how your locks look. The thickness of each lock, how they look dispersed about your head. There's a lot of things you have to take into consideration just based on your hair type. You will never see an identical set of locks. Each person's locks is curtailed to their hair type, their hair texture, and the method that they chose in which to start them. Locks are a style that are specialized for more thicker hair types, but they can work on thinner hair types and more fine hair, but it's really meant for curly hair. Coarse, curly hair tends to lock quicker than thin, straight hair. Most locticians or hairstylists will say that your hair has to be at least like 3 to 4 inches to start. Allowing your hair to grow to that length will just give your hair more time to get accustomed to growing as one. Another thing to consider when you're about to get your locks is how thick you want each lock and how you want your parts to look. I started with scallop parts because I just felt like that just looked cool. People typically do like regular square parts, like just looking like a regular grid. You can even do diamond parts. And then how thick you want each lock to look. This is important because when I started, I just was like, whatever. I just wanted locks so bad. I was just like, however thick you think that they would be. I said that to my loctician. But I started with, I think, 76 locks. And later on down the line, I ended up combining them. So now I have 62. And I didn't even know that I wanted a thicker, fuller look until I was acquainted with having them for a certain period of time. Also think about how you want to start your locks. You can do 2 strands, you can do comb coils, you can do instant locks. With 2-strand twists and comb coils, you essentially have to wait for your hair to get accustomed to intertwining and growing as one. Whereas with instant locks, you can basically come out of the chair with your hair already locked. You skip that whole process of budding and all those different things like that. So that was what I decided to do. The only thing about instant locks is that it takes much longer to do. It takes so much longer. So what my loctician did was she parted out my natural hair and took this crochet needle looking tool. It's a really tiny tool. Hold on, let me get one. So she took a tool that looks like this. It's like a super tiny crochet hook. And she took sections of my natural hair and basically poked this through over and over and over. And since this has a hook, it basically will grab the hair, intertwine it within itself over and over so it can lock. It took me 14 hours, but it was worth it. That's what I wanted. And also, I'm not really a person that likes a lot of frizz in my hair. I know that's crazy because I literally have locks, but I hate the frizzy look. I hate just frizz on my scalp. I do not like that look at all. So I was like, I don't know if I can deal with that for months while my hair is getting accustomed to locking. So I just decided to skip it. A lot of people don't even know that that's an option to do. You also can do a method called back combing, and it is exactly what it seems like it is. You take a comb and kind of tease the hair back towards the roots to kind of force it to get matted, if that makes sense. Also free forms where you just let your hair do its thing. A lot of guys do this to essentially keep it in its shape. Every so often you'll twist it or you'll kind of maintain it in a way, and eventually your hair will lock on its own. It is another lengthy process. So that I know of, there are about 6 different types of locks that you can have. Each type requires a different installation process and maintenance. So I'm sure that before you get any type of locks, your hairstylist will have you book a consultation with them just so they can give you the rundown of the installation process, what technique they're going to use, and aftercare and things like that. The first kind of category of locks is sister locks or micro locks. The difference between sister locks and micro locks is that sister locks have a patented technique for starting them, even though micro locks are pretty much the same thing. They're both the extremely tiny locks. Some people have up to 400 in their hair, and the installation process is pretty lengthy because of this, because you're taking extremely small parts of your hair and locking it up. The benefit to this is that when you style it, it always looks pretty full. Some people even flat iron them or curl them, and in a way it resembles loose hair. Traditional locks are what everybody thinks of when they see locks. They're wider in diameter, but they are a little bit heavier than micro locks or sister locks. Typically, people can have from probably like 30 locks to 60 or 70 in a traditional set, and they're started with the methods that I mentioned previously. A plus of traditional locks is that they can be maintained without the help of a stylist after you get them. Then you have freeform or semi-freeform locks. They are exactly what they seem to be. They're just locks that develop without any parting. Your hair just basically mats by itself. If you're a person who really isn't big on frizz like I am, I wouldn't take this route. People don't really talk about this, but freeform or semi-freeform locks are less socially accepted. To people outside of our culture, it seems like you're unkept. When you decide to lock your hair, you have to carry yourself with an utmost confidence, because regardless of what style your hair is in, you know who you are, you know what you bring to the table when you walk into a room. That's just something that comes with having locks, because a lot of people will prejudge you based off of your hair, also because of your skin. But having locks, you have to exude confidence. The last type of locks are Florida wigs. They're very large in diameter, and they tend to have a more gravity defying appearance. You can either get this look by combining existing locks or just parting your hair off in really large sections and allowing it to lock like that. Amongst all these different types of locks, I think that sister locks, micro locks, and the Florida wigs are the most expensive to start. And also it can be hard to find stylists who specialize in caring for these types of locks. Don't set extremely high or unrealistic expectations for your hair. That sounds crazy, but a lot of people will see a picture of a head full of locks and think that their hair is going to look the exact same. Even if your hair texture is the same and you get the same amount of locks as that person has, your head of hair will not look exactly like theirs. So the process of your hair beginning to lock happens in a couple stages. The first stage is when you first get them done. Depending on how you start them, of course, they're either in their twists, their coils, it's just in your natural state of hair. The second stage is budding, and that's when little, it's almost like a pea in a pod. Like little bumps form in your hair where your hair is starting to combine together. Your hair is kind of tangling within itself. It's super fluffy and puffy and thick. Once your locks mature, they kind of thin out and get a little bit more firm. Going from starter locks to having actual buds in your locks can take anywhere from 3 to 6 months. When your hair is budding, the process in which it stays fluffy and loose at the ends can range anywhere from 3 to 9 months. Once you get to the mature stage of your locks, the growth of your hair will be a little bit more noticeable, and also each lock will begin to normalize in size, so there will be a bit of uniformity about your hair. During the initial and budding stages, it is imperative that you leave your hair alone. Let it do its thing. Don't overly retwist it or go to get your hair styled or manipulated too often. You have to give your hair the time and space to let it do its thing. When you over manipulate your hair, not only does it impede on this process, but it puts tension on your hair, and most of the time it's pretty painful. It can also cause your hair to break off at certain points. So as far as maintenance is concerned, the primary thing that you need to be worried about is keeping your locks moisturized. I use a half and half mix of leave-in conditioner and water and just spray it on my hair every other day. Also, it's important that you keep your scalp oiled, but you would do that having any hairstyle, really. When you're considering what products to use on your locks, make sure that you pick products that are lightweight and have a lot of natural ingredients. Locks by themselves are already pretty heavy, so you don't want to add any extra weight to them. Also, when you're using heavier products, you're more at risk for buildup. And buildup isn't a good thing because sometimes it can create an odor and it can cause thinning because so much tension is being applied to the bottom of your locks as opposed to there being an even distribution of weight. When it comes to washing your locks, you do not need to wash them that often. It's a hairstyle that requires your hair to just do its thing. Your hair has to fulfill its full processes, so you don't need to do anything that you don't have to interrupt that process. I only wash my locks about once or twice a month. And of course, that's contingent upon if I was swimming in the ocean or if I was exposed to chlorine, swimming in a pool, things like that. It's just a case-by-case type of thing, but regularly or on average, I only wash my hair about once a month. This depends on your lifestyle too. Like if you're a frequent swimmer or if you're in the gym, things like that. That's what you have to consider when you're thinking about the timeline in which you want to wash your locks. Locks can be so expensive, not only to start, but to maintain. So this is the shampoo that I use. As you can see, it's filled to about right here. This is what I've used after probably 2 washes. Only 2 washes, I've used the whole bottle. You just have to be comfortable with spending money on products and using a lot of product. I think the importance of joining a community once you lock your hair isn't really talked about enough. I know there are a lot of social media pages that promote it, but when you lock your hair, you may not always feel like yourself, especially if you've just been used to your regular hair all your life. Make sure that you talk to and connect with people who can share your experience, shed some light on their own personal experience, or even school you, give you tips and things like that. I touched on this briefly before, but make sure that you have a strong sense of self before you get your locks. Locks are not just a trend that you can dip in or out of. The process of getting them, maintaining them, and letting them reach a point of maturation is lengthy in and of itself. So if you're unsure, just don't even consider getting them. Locks are low maintenance, but not no maintenance. Don't expect your hair to act any different than it has been just because it's locked. For my girlies that want to start locks, your hair is not always going to be retwisted. It's not always going to lay flat. Your hair is not always going to look the same as it does when you first step out of the chair. So you have to be able to be comfortable seeing yourself and seeing your hair in any state, but still love the journey and love yourself. Because you're not your hair. The upkeep of your hair shouldn't define who you are as a person. Along with being patient with yourself, be patient with your hair as well. Make sure you take lots of pictures throughout your journey because you're going to look back in your photos and be like, I cannot believe it's already been 2 years. I can't believe my hair is already this long. Time flies, and being able to reflect back on your lock journey is something that's just so cool to do. Remember that having locks is a journey. It's not just a hairstyle. It's all about patience, care, and really embracing your new look. If you have any questions or you want to share your thoughts, make sure you drop them in the comments below. Also, you can add in anything that I missed because I know there's a plethora of information out here, and I'm sure it would benefit people greatly if other people chimed in and added facts that I didn't mention or that aren't commonly known. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you in the next video.